I'm live on Facebook. I believe I'm live on Periscope. Let's check out the YouTube. See what's cracking.
The tube, that's you.
FewTube for the few. Okay, we are live on all three. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. Almost 6 o'clock on the East Coast. Very cloudy, dismal, depressing day. It's actually been that way for a couple days now. As I think the remnants of the Hurricane Florence, we're starting to see some rain here. But obviously, North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina are the ones in the eye of the storm. That beautiful man that just gave you the peace sign, Tommy Bayless. Maybe he'll make some cameos in this, but he's busy editing. As we have GoFundMe. We're launching a GoFundMe tomorrow to try and get back in the field, where we're going to be trying to raise a good amount of money to try and cover critical stories that the people want, because this is about the people. By the way, I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. On YouTube, you could obviously, if you're feeling super, this is a super chat. So feel free to contribute. And as always, press the share button. It takes a little while for us to get the audience up because, unfortunately, YouTube's notification system has apparently failed everybody that does independent media. Apparently, YouTube's not so big on alerting anyone to when independent, especially progressive folks are live. So that's the story. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the news. You got, as always, the Trump circus. I'm not going to be covering Trump today. Maybe one thing, but I'm going to tie it into another story. If you haven't seen on the YouTube channel, I interviewed Nina Turner the other day at a Cynthia Nixon for Governor campaign event. Also asked Miss Nixon a few questions. They're both up on the YouTube channel. And I should tell you before I start, we just passed 16,000 YouTube subscribers. So pretty damn good. We've been live. We launched the channel, I believe, like last week of February. So to have 16,000 so quickly is pretty good. Right behind me, we're working out some lighting issues, but we got a little status quo swag behind me. The website hopefully will be launched probably right in the beginning of October. The guy doing the website, Albert, he's fantastic, is doing the final tweaks. So maybe we'll, show you a little sneak peek sooner than later. But again, super chat. Again, if you see, Ty made this fantastic scrolling thing at the bottom, so you can see the links there if you want to become a Patreon subscriber. If you don't like Patreon, there's PayPal too. So anyway, let's begin. Honestly, I was saying to Ty and Jen's here too, why, there's the phrase, arrested for being black. What is it?
It's living while being black or
driving while black.
Yeah, driving while black is the thing, but like living while black.
Right, living while black. So I was thinking, what term can you make up for a black man?
Exhausted 11 said, are you selling the posters?
Are we selling the posters? Depends how much you're offering. We'll see. As of now, no, but maybe. I'll have to talk to Jen about that. She runs this show. This guy, Botham, let me make sure I'm saying it right, Botham Jean, 26-year-old man. He worked at, thank you very much. For those that, I know you don't want to know, but I always keep it real. I'm having severe colon issues. I haven't gone to the bathroom in 3.5, 4 days. And why I bring this up, my dearly departed grandma, who I lost last year, she was a wonderful woman. Her and I had a real connection because we used to talk about our problems. And I'm carrying on her legacy. So I'm drinking some green fiber juice, some iced coffee, and some other things to try and get things moving here. Anyway, so Botham Jean, 26-year-old African-American, worked for, I believe, Cooper House. Family. Price Waterhouse Cooper. Family. Victoria says Senatee. See, people want to help. Basically, was just in his apartment, like many of you are right now, or whatever. So, an officer, basically who lives right above him. So, like, I'm in my apartment right now. So let's say this is
below. She lives below. She lives on the
below him. Thank you. So the officer lived right below him, and he lived in the apartment directly vertically above. So, I mean, I maybe once or twice went to my dorm in college and went to the wrong floor, mostly because I was drinking, if I remember correctly. But this officer is with the Dallas PD. Thank you, Tommy Tahifi Bayless, for the $4.99. Fantastic. Watch, he'll be like, give that back to me in my paycheck. So she gets off her shift for 14 hours and parks, so she says, on the fourth floor parking garage, and goes what she thinks is her apartment. Mind you, Botham Jean's apartment, we're now learning from neighbors, had a red mat in front of it. Hers did not. So she goes to what she thinks is her apartment, and according to her, because the story has been changing now, seemingly day by day. So Sean King on Twitter, obviously, I think he's with The Intercept now. He does a lot of things with activism. He showed already there's consistencies with this officer's story, but let me finish. Basically, she's saying that she thought it was her apartment, and because when she opened the door, she thought it was an intruder, was this man she shot twice. She shot him twice, and he died on the way to the hospital. So it was not her apartment. But let me show you, because Sean King shows it right here. There's different claims being made. So on one hand, you have sources reveal Amber Geiger, she was the police officer, told investigators she yelled at Botham Jean to show his hands after she walked into his apartment, drew her firearm and shot him. Also says the door was unlocked and she thought she was entering her unit when she saw the victim in the dark. So she's the first story, because when, sources reveal, told investigators, let me give you like breaking news. That's the police telling the media, because the police are trying to spin the narrative a certain way because they're trying to protect their own. So she's saying that the door was unlocked. Well, most people, I believe this was early in the morning, most people lock their door. But before I show you how the story changed, let me now show you a video of this apartment complex, because it would be pretty much impossible for the door to be unlocked. So let me show you this video. If it would load. Hold on one second.
Press this way.
This is my key. This is my fob. I turn it. I open. Let me see if my door stays ajar. Nope.
No.
Lies.
No. So I want to play that one more time, and I'm going to stop it right away. Hold on.
This is my key. This is my fob.
Okay, so right there, do you see how that green light lit up?
Yeah.
These are electronically, it's an electronic match system.
Yeah.
So you're
almost, you can look at it as if when you go to a hotel. You go to a hotel, they give you a key. If you happen to go to they give you a key card. If you happen to go to the wrong door, it turns red. It only turns green when it fits the door it's supposed to go in.
So besides the fact that it seems, because that was the video I just showed you was another woman who lives in the apartment basically saying there's no way to even creep your door open. You know, sometimes you leave your door a little ajar if you don't have the key, whatever.
You can't.
So
Close on
it will automatically shut. But most importantly, you need an actual key to get in. It's not just like a swipe.
Yeah.
So if she actually thought it was her apartment, she would put the key in and she would immediately see it's not going green.
Exactly.
So right then and there, it doesn't make sense, first of all, that
and that's
the door...
why she had to change the story.
Right. It doesn't make sense, first of all, that the door was unlocked because, as you could see...
You cannot. You have to have a stick or prop something open. There's no way you could possibly just have the door open.
Right. So let's show you what the story changed to. If I could find that. I'm just literally going down Sean's Twitter because he's been doing quite a lot. Okay. So the stories, first the door was unlocked. Now we have this. A Dallas police officer who spoke with NBC5 under the condition of anonymity. Starts sounding like Trump. Trump can't say anonymous. He says anonymous. Said Geiger was assigned to the department's elite crime response team and had just finished a 14-hour shift serving warrants in high crime areas. When she arrived home, she took the elevator to a floor that was not hers. None of the media reports asked, why did she go to a floor that was not hers? Why did she not notice that there was a red mat in front of the door, which was not for her apartment? Anyway, she then went into what she thought was her door, put the key in, and struggled with the lock, which should have been another, because it's not just struggling with the lock, the green thing wouldn't go off. So that should have been an immediate, if you're sober and, you know, paying attention. Put the key in.
That's a key point, too. Because if you're sober, because I'm like, there's been times where I've been at hotels, obviously hotel I'm not familiar with, that I went to the wrong door and I'm like, oh shit. But it let me know the key didn't work, and I left. You know what I mean? So
right. So now it becomes she then went to what she thought was her door, put the key in, and struggled with the lock. Geiger then put down several things she was holding and continued to fight with the key when the resident swung open the door and startled her. Geiger believed Jean, who was wearing only underwear, was an intruder and shot him with her service weapon. It wasn't until police and rescue units began arriving that she realized she was not at her apartment. Once realizing her deadly mistake, she became emotionally and blah, 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 blah.
She turned herself in for 2 days.
Right.
Like, what is that?
Right. Well, first of all, the police department... So this is another example of, you know, different legal systems for different folk. The police department initially...
not even in the finance.
The police department initially sent her home because she was cooperating. It was only until, I believe, 48 hours later, that sounds drunk. It was only until 48 hours later that they charged her with manslaughter and she actually surrendered. And then it was moved from the Dallas PD to the Texas Rangers, which didn't really make sense to me. Somebody's asking, he doesn't have a chair. Can you tell them that I'm not shunning you to the outside, but you have to do some editing. So
yeah.
But I wanna make a few points. Number one, if this was a black officer who shot a white person, he would have been in jail in 5 minutes. He would not be sent home, and the whole, like, it would have been immediately, he's lying. Yeah. I'm talking about the media. He's lying because the whole story doesn't make sense. Sit on his lap, Ty. You want to start rumors exhausted? Actually,
we sleep together.
Depending on how many super chats we get, maybe he can sit on my lap. We'll see.
Why is this thing not working? Let me see something. Let's go.
We're doing this in real time. So the point is, number one, it should be a dead giveaway if you have an electronic key that cannot go on until the key is the match. Mm-hmm. She should have known this. Why is she fidgeting with it if it's not going on? And then maybe look, because they have the door number right to the left. So it seems to me again, we don't know. I don't know if they breathalyzed her. I don't know. They haven't released a lot of information. But it seems to me, I mean, in theory, can you be overtired and just go to the wrong floor? Sure. But that's where my benefit of the doubt ends, because if, let's say he actually did open the door, you start hearing some noise at your door, and maybe he was afraid someone's trying to intrude in my apartment.
Yeah.
which is a normal response, and then you open up, she would have had to basically shoot him dead right there.
Yeah.
Which is obviously, like we're seeing with all police brutality, it's shoot first, think twice. So, the story doesn't make sense, but even if you wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt that she really didn't realize it wasn't her door, and he opened it, and she thought he was an intruder, just because an intruder is in your home, which he wasn't, it was his home, even just because an intruder is in your home, you don't need to shoot to kill. I mean, unless he has a gun aimed at you. Who said that? Oh, I will sit on Ty's lap. Shit, is he married?
No, I'm not married. But look, my theory is, I think we're going to find out. You know, they heard from 2 witnesses that said they heard something. They heard voices, someone saying, "Let me in," as if they knew the person. So me and Jordan's been going back and forth, and I really think that they may have been in a relationship, and I think something may have happened, and that just set her off or whatever. You know, maybe he cheated. I don't know, but to say that they didn't know each other and they were strangers, I can't believe that, especially after hearing what the lawyer said that the witnesses said. But at the same time, the lawyer also said that they have no indication that they knew each other. But once the phone records and stuff is subpoenaed, I don't know. Because like I said, the witnesses said, what I heard was someone saying, let me in. Like, I mean, if you know it's a burglar in your house, you're not about to say, let me in. You're going to do whatever you need to do to either call the police or, you know, I don't know how they would handle that, shoot the door down or whatever the case may be. But you're not going to be like, let me in, you know. So that sounds like someone that's upset with someone that they are familiar with.
Well, regardless of what it is.
Of course.
Regardless of what it is.
I guess I only say that to say that, you know, the story's a lie. Right. That's really what I'm saying. I'm saying it to say that the story is a lie. I feel what happened was intentional. I feel that something may have happened that triggered her. I think that it's complete murder. I only bring that up to say that I think it was something that happened. I don't know if it was in the heat of the moment, but it was something that happened that she did, and it wasn't because she thought someone was breaking in her house.
Well, all I know is we could speculate about what happened, but we don't need to speculate about what would happen if the colors were different. Because I've been reading media articles about this, and it's literally insulting the intelligence of not only Botham Jean's family, but any sane person, white or black. It doesn't make sense. You know, yeah, you could. Their defense will be she was very tired. She worked 14 hours. Stressful things going on at work. You know, the lighting isn't so great in the apartment complex, so, you know, she didn't see the red mat. There will be a lot of excuses to basically call this an accident, but the bottom line is, it's the same principle. Even if she genuinely thought it was her apartment, she thought that somehow let's say he opened the door, there's no reason to shoot to kill. They didn't find a weapon on him because he was in his apartment.
Yeah.
So if I see a burglar in my apartment, if they're just standing there
in his drawers.
Yeah, in his drawers. By the way, he was in his underwear, which I'm in my underwear.
This guy broke in my apartment, and crazy enough, he hung up all the pictures of his family and everything.
Right.
It's bullshit.
You know, even if I was a police officer, I might maybe tackle him, or if you feel the need to shoot, like shoot in the leg. He didn't have a gun pointed at her. He didn't have any weapon. And we've heard before when police make house visits and they shoot to kill, they said, oh, they were holding something. I'm sure that will be the defense too. But the bottom line is, it is now, as the headline says, it's endangered while being black in your apartment.
Well, endangered is a result of something, but it's living while being black in America. Period. Point blank. That's as general as you can say. It doesn't matter where you are, in your home, on the street. It doesn't matter. We are presumed threats and suspected of being the suspect wherever we are, you know. and we never get the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
So, and that's just a perception thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, black people, all black people can be the greatest people in the world right now. And guess what? They're still going to be treated the same because it ain't us, it's them. It's their perception of us. You know what I'm saying? I can't change no one's perception. They're going to feel how they want to feel. You know what I mean? I remember back in the day when I was younger, I used to get in a lot of trouble. I used to gang bang. I did a little time in jail, and a lot of times older people would tell me, like, if you just pull your pants up and stop, acting crazy, like the police will leave you alone. That's what they said. I wasn't listening at the time, but ironic enough, I did get my shit together. I got into USC, and I was going to school, and you stupid. And while I was at USC, we had a few incidents with police officers. You know why? Because it was all black parties, and it was a little off of Greek Road, and they didn't think we were students. And they came and interrupted our party, hit me with a nightstick, and pushed us like from my street on 23rd all the way down Hoover to like 32nd. And we had a big meeting with the police chief in the school and everything, because it doesn't matter whether you're in school or not, whether you're good or not, whether you're rich or not, you still a nigga in their eyes. And that's just that's the reality of it. And it's not the victims, it's the people, it's their perception. They have to change their perception. They always come at us like we're some, like you ever see like a loose pit bull, just kind of like a loose pit bull? And you'll see it coming, you're gonna get the fuck out, you know what I'm saying? Or you're gonna get aggressive with it. They just come at us aggressively for no reason outside of their own perception of us. And there's nothing we can do about it. They have to do that.
Yeah. And by the way, just to end the conspiracy theory, I didn't broadcast last week in my boxers. Those were blue
That wasn't
shorts.
last week. I think that was this
Yeah,
week.
yeah. I saw a lot of comments. Why are you going live in your underwear?
Yeah.
That was shorts. The camera angle made it look like it was underwear. They were blue shorts. I'll wear them tomorrow and show you in full.
And t-shirt. Somebody said you had a wife beater on. I'm done with this channel.
I did not have a wife beater on. So
we don't even use that term.
The conspiracy theories on our fashion are getting out of control. But I guess it's better than other conspiracy theories.
Well, hey, if you start wearing them your little nephew shorts, maybe they'll fit you right.
That's true. So to wrap this up, I honestly, we'll see what happens.
Wouldn't complain.
I think the police are going to do what they always do. They're going to fudge the evidence.
They're going to protect their own.
Yeah,
they're already doing it now. You can see if they didn't get a blood test or anything when she first came in, they didn't get any of that. I don't know if they have it or not, but if we find out that they didn't do that, they're protecting their own. They know exactly what to do when it comes to investigations, and they know exactly what to do when it comes to protecting the people that they're loyal to. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And which is so frustrating.
So I will stay on this. I mean, I've never seen a story like this, but at the end of the day, yeah, sometimes there are accidents, but at the end also, people cannot in America be hunted in their apartments, especially African Americans who you always hear we're afraid as soon as we leave our door. But now you have to be afraid just in your door. Yeah. And even if you wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt that this was an accident, she did not need to shoot an unarmed man. And she should have, if she's a competent person who's lucid and not mentally unstable, she should have recognized very quickly, oh shit, this isn't my apartment. This guy's in his underwear. There's a red mat under me. To the left says the apartment number. I mean,
her eyes though on that mug shot, seems like she's not 100%. Like there was no emotion, really.
I don't know. So we'll stay on this, but the media, from the articles I've read,
Colin just got the notification.
Oh Jesus! But from the articles I've read, they're basically just regurgitating the police department spin. So that's the media we have, and that's why we're going to be launching Status Quo very soon.
Yeah.
So, all right, moving on. Ty's going back to editing because we're launching our GoFundMe. We're launching our GoFundMe tomorrow. I covered a Cynthia Nixon event. When was that? I think over the week. Yeah, Saturday. So you can go check out some of that coverage on YouTube, this channel. I also asked Cynthia a few questions, not a formal interview, but there were other reporters asking her questions, so I kind of jumped in. She's definitely down in the majority of the polls. I think the polls are probably definitely overestimating Cuomo's margin of victory. I also think that most of these polls are still calling landlines, and they're not. I don't know many millennials that use landline phones. So I do think the polling is probably out of step with what the actual results will be. I'm not going to say whether she's going to win or whether she's going to lose. I don't know. As of right now, it doesn't look great. But most people thought Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was going to get crushed, including me, to be honest. And then she won. So it's definitely, I think, going to be a lot closer than people think. But Cuomo, if you live in New York, all you hear on TV, all you hear on radio is Cuomo ads, Cuomo ads, Cuomo ads, calling him progressive, which he's not. I mean, Andrew Cuomo has deregulated. He's given banks whatever the hell they wanted. He's given fossil fuel companies a lot of what they wanted. He has given huge tax breaks to corporations and donors. He is governed like a Republican. I mean, that's just the truth. But a really, really cynical, shameful mailer was sent out. Oh, yes, and Cuomo has outspent her an insane amount. I think he spent $36 million on this campaign, on this re-election. Cynthia Nixon, I can tell you, has not spent anywhere near that because she hasn't raised anywhere near that. But the Democratic Party of New York sent out a mailer essentially to try and get Orthodox Jewish people and Jewish people to vote for Cuomo, suggesting that Cynthia Nixon is somehow anti-Semitic. They suggested that she supports the BDS movement, which is the boycott, divest, sanctions movement of Israel, even though Cynthia Nixon has never even talked about it. I don't know what she believes, but she's never publicly gave a position on BDS. And they talked about, they put some other positions on her to try and basically make her look like she's anti-Semitic, which besides politics is just shameful. And why this is important is because we see these kinds of things from the Democratic Party machine all over the country, where state parties do the bidding of either their governors or their national leaders. And then those same governors like Cuomo pretend, I didn't know anything about the mailer. I didn't know anything about this. When the Democratic Party of New York doesn't shit without Andrew Cuomo's permission. They don't sneeze without Governor Cuomo's permission. It's as ridiculous as a off-duty police officer claiming that she thought it was the wrong apartment and then killing a black man in his apartment in underwear. It's as ridiculous, well, not as ridiculous, but it's on that level that Andrew Cuomo wouldn't know about a mailer going out to basically smear Cynthia Nixon. And by the way, Cynthia Nixon, who identifies as queer, she's married to a woman, she has 3 children, they practice Judaism. They take their kids to a synagogue. So it's absurd. Not only does she not even have an express position on BDS, but she's Jewish and practices Judaism. So what I found astounding about this, of course, Cuomo pretended he doesn't know anything about it. The media, by and large, the national media isn't doing a damn thing because they want Cuomo to win. Cuomo, to me, is kind of Hillary Clinton with a penis. I don't mean to be sexist, but she is the closest politician I could compare Cuomo to. Has a lot of progressive talk, a lot of progressive platitudes, and governs like a Republican. But the New York Times, who endorsed Governor Cuomo, claiming that, basically the endorsement was essentially like, yeah, he's corrupt. He has 2 officials that have been charged with criminal charges for corruption. He's done a lot of bad things, but, he's experienced, so we endorse him. So the New York Times, it doesn't happen all the time, but you do see media outlets revoke their endorsement if new information comes. We saw it with Todd Aiken, Mr. Legitimate rape. We've seen it with other people who have their endorsements pulled. So everyone knows that Andrew Cuomo's Democratic Party of New York intentionally sent out this false mailer. And this is in New York, but this is a microcosm for the entire Democratic Party. As you remember, the Democratic National Committee was literally sending emails and pitches to media during the Democratic primary, trying to call Bernie Sanders an atheist, trying to get them to make Bernie Sanders seem like an atheist and that he's anti-Jewish, and all these ridiculous things. So the Democratic Party machine on a federal level as the DNC, or the state level, which was the New York Party, the Democratic Party of New York, is basically doing like Willie Horton, really slimy style, Roger Ailes style, Karl Rove style smears. And why are they doing that? Because they can't run on policy. They cannot run on policy. Andrew Cuomo, New York State has the largest income inequality of any state in the United States of America. New York State, number one, income inequality. New York State has some, probably compared, other than Chicago, I don't know a city that has more racial discrimination and racial policing than New York State. It is a police terrorist state in New York City. It got a little better after Andrew Cuomo, but it's not after Andrew Cuomo, after Bill de Blasio came in and they stopped stop and frisk and other things, but it's nowhere where it should be. But I want to read the New York Times article because I couldn't believe this. After it becomes very clear that Cuomo basically unleashed the Democratic Party to smear her in a cheap trick to get Jewish voters not to vote for her, this is what the New York Times says. Andrew Cuomo owes Cynthia Nixon an apology. A last-minute mailer from Democrats wrongly describing Miss Nixon as anti-Semitic is a disgrace by the editorial board of the New York Times. So in their original endorsement, they basically said Cuomo's attached to a lot of corruption. He's got a lot of issues. We don't think he's perfect, but he's experienced. So the New York Times likes experienced corruption, not inexperienced corruption. And now the New York Times editorial board, which are the creme de la creme on the editorial board, these are writers and their publisher and all that, basically in response to Andrew Cuomo and the Democratic Party lying and smearing who would be the first woman governor of New York, the first queer governor of New York, a progressive, and a Jewish person. Instead of pulling their endorsement, I mean, whatever, if the New York Times wanted to say, we're pulling our endorsement, we're not going to endorse Miss Nixon, but we're pulling our endorsement from Governor Cuomo. I would be okay with that. You can't force them to endorse a candidate, but basically their response, well, he should apologize. He had a minor error. Quote from the New York Times, this is dirty politics, nearly as sleazy as it gets. Days before voting Thursday in Governor Andrew Cuomo's primary race for re-election, the New York State Democratic Committee has sent voters a campaign mailer falsely accusing his challenger, Cynthia Nixon, of being silent on the rise of anti-Semitism. It says she supports the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement against Israel over its treatment of Palestinians. She does not. It accuses Ms. Nixon of opposing tax-supported funding of yeshivas, the private religious schools attended by many of New York City's Orthodox Jews. She has never said that. Quote, with anti-Semitism and bigotry on the rise, we can't take a chance, the mailer reads. Re-elect Governor Andrew Cuomo. This is the lowest form of politics and the most dangerous, exploiting the festering wounds and fears along ethnic and religious lines. You know kind of what it's similar to, Ty? You know what it's kind of similar to? What? President Trump saying Mexicans are the problem, Muslims are the problem.
I didn't even hear that part. What did he say?
The New York Times is basically pointing out that this is a slimy attempt to exploit festering wounds and fears along ethnic and religious lines. What is Trump doing?
So they said that, but...
So the Democratic Party is sending out this mailer basically trying to make it seem that Cynthia Nixon is anti-Semitic, against funding Jewish private schools, which she's never even talked about.
Who did she send out the letter to? Was it DCCC? Just a DNC?
The New York State Democratic Party sent out mailers to voters ahead of the election.
Did you get it?
I haven't checked my mail in a while. But, so basically the Democratic Party, I mean, it's not the same exact thing as Trump, but they're trying to prey on people's fears based on religion, ethnic lines. It's shameful. Yet the New York Times still endorses Governor Cuomo. According to them, sorry, Mr. Cuomo, but that strains credulity. Mr. Cuomo dominates the state Democratic Party. It acts ethically or abominably at his direction, or at the very least with his campaign's blessing. The committee, no doubt, sent this garbage in the cynical hope that it would prove effective with ultra-Orthodox Jews, who generally vote as a bloc, making them a sought-after constituency for New York politicians. Jeff Berman, executive director of the state Democratic Party and organization, said Saturday on Twitter that the mailer was, quote, a mistake and is inappropriate and is not the tone the Democratic Party should set. Yeah, it's a mistake when you get caught. Saying it wouldn't happen again. Sunday, he went further, saying the group would, quote, work with the Nixon campaign to send out a mailing of their choosing to the same universe of people. Even if that were possible so late in the campaign, it's not enough. Mr. Cuomo has an obligation to personally apologize and condemn these outrageous attacks. Voters deserve to hear Mr. Cuomo describe Ms. Nixon as a worthy opponent who abhors anti-Semitism. He should make sure that message gets to ultra-Orthodox voters ahead of Thursday's elections. And he should fire the party official who came up with the idea for the flyer. Oh, give me a break. I'm going to fast forward here. But nonetheless, they say, given all the ethical lapses in Mr. Cuomo's administration, of which he has also pleaded ignorance, this smear is appalling. It is the kind of cynical behavior that detracts from Mr. Cuomo's often impressive ability to govern. I'm shocked that the New York Times thinks that it's very impressive governing when you give tax cuts to corporations, your donors, have corrupt officials that are doing your bidding, give giant handouts to real estate developers who donate to your campaigns at the expense of actual working people and black people who then get pushed out of the city. Impressive governing, that is. If he is not careful, it could make voters think they have no choice but to vote for someone else. Well, they do have a choice to vote for someone else, and part of voting or not voting for someone is based on their moral character. Even with all this, the New York Times concludes, Mr. Cuomo deserves the third time because of his potential to lead. His potential. Well, this is your third term, so I don't think we're really looking at his potential. Has he led or has he not led? Maybe the first term we're looking at somebody's potential. He should stop squandering that potential now. To be sure of it, New York Democrats need to turn out in large numbers on Thursday to support every reform-driven candidate possible, for the legislature, for attorney general, even for party committees. They can teach Albany a lesson it won't soon forget. Well, with op-eds like this from the New York Times, let me tell you, Albany's really going to change. Corruption's really going to change. Let me tell you. So, why this is so telling? Why this is so telling? And as a reminder, folks, this is a super chat. If you're feeling super, let me know. Let me know if you like the sign behind me, too. I'm not feeling it because the light is kind of distorting it, but you tell me.
You know we can do if it's just that you want the status quo. We can make the image and have it like you got that scroll on there and just have it sitting behind.
Yes. And as a reminder to people coming late, we just passed 16,000 subscribers, so thank you very much. All of you early day subscribers, if you're not subscribed, don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. If you are subscribed, I love you. Thank you very much. WitchyXX says you need more signs. Endo, I like the original sign. Endo, what do you know? Well, we're hoping with the GoFundMe, we're going to be able to spruce up production. So stay tuned. We're going to be launching our GoFundMe tomorrow. I'll be live, 4 o'clock Eastern, launching our GoFundMe. So be on the lookout for that. So here's what I think. If Cynthia Nixon, or a progressive candidate, sent out a mailer describing Governor Andrew Cuomo as supporting the BDS movement or wanting to defund private schools for Orthodox Jewish people, or basically as supporting anything. You know what the New York Times would be doing? They'd be calling on her to drop out of the race right this minute. I can promise you, if Bernie Sanders ever sent out a mailer during the 2016 campaign claiming Hillary Clinton was, anti-Semitic, or she's done things that are anti-Semitic, or that she's anti-Arab, or that she's anti-Mexican, or whatever the hell it is, not only would the corporate media, state, local, and national, be calling on him to drop out of the race, then they'd be going after him. He should drop out of the Senate. He's totally shamed himself, and he cannot lead.
Edward wants to know what's the difference between Patreon and the GoFundMe.
It's a very good question, Edward. Edward asked, what's the difference between the GoFundMe and the Patreon? So, Patreon is our, not just us, but a lot of independent journalists use Patreon. That's a monthly, ongoing subscription. So basically, you subscribe on Patreon. We're going to totally be redoing our Patreon, by the way, when we launch Status Coup. There's going to be less levels and more streamlined content, so stay tuned for that. But Patreon is monthly, so right now I think we have just shy of 400 Patreons. We really want to grow that, because obviously the way to grow a lasting business is monthly subscribers, or yearly subscribers. We'll have a yearly option as well. The GoFundMe is very specific to, we're trying to get a lump sum, which I'm going to tell you tomorrow, specifically so we could get back in the field and target specific stories we want to get out there and cover, which we're going to tell you about tomorrow. So the GoFundMe is basically so we have a pool of money that we don't, like right now, let's keep it real, Ty. We have to be very, I hate the word conservative, but we have to be conservative with where we go and how much we go, because we don't have enough money at the moment and enough funding at the moment to get out in the field and cover the stories that no one else is covering. We have the will. We got the will, baby. But at the end of the day, you need the funding. This scroll thing has stopped, by the way. So the GoFundMe is just, it's not a monthly subscription. It's a, one-time contribution. Leave whatever you want, and hopefully we get a bulk of enough money. I was very encouraged to see Abby Martin and Empire Files GoFundMe. I think is over like $55,000, so she could continue and her crew can continue their production of Empire Files, which is a great weekly documentary series.
You just gotta, if it stops, just double click. Oh, you should probably just have to click on it once.
Okay.
And then it'll start.
So basically the difference, Patreon, monthly, GoFundMe is, one-time contribution. And we're really, really going to be promoting it, because the bottom line is, I think there's a lot of organizations out there that tell you, hey, fund us, we're going to do X with it. And then they don't actually do that. We are going to have the specific stories we want to cover. And when we get the funding, shock, we're going to go ahead and cover them. And we're also going to be flexible based on what kind of stories viewers want. Obviously, as breaking news develops, we might change plans and go somewhere else. But the bottom line is, this is specifically so we can get out in the field. It isn't cheap, which I'm going to tell you about tomorrow, between hotels and rent-a-cars and food. And you'd be surprised, Ty could tell you. I mean, it's often we need like a last-minute equipment on the road, because we need something X to do Y on the road. So the bottom line is, that's what the GoFundMe is for. So 4 o'clock tomorrow, it will be myself, Ty, Jen as well. We'll all be in there telling you what stories we want to cover. And I always believe actions speak louder than words. If you've been following me for a bit, as well as Ty, you see where we go. You see what kind of stories we cover. We're not just talking about it, we're doing it. So that's what we're talking about. And speaking of one of the stories that I would have loved to cover if we had the current funding, you probably haven't heard about this in the mainstream media. Oh, excuse me. Just to tie that up, if the New York Times was a reputable news organization, the New York Times is leading the charge against President Trump's racist dog whistling and blaming other ethnicities. So how could you in one turn be the leader of the resistance when you're endorsing a candidate who's preying on ethnic and religious fears. You can't do both. You got to pick one or the other. It doesn't. If it's a Democrat who's sending out shameful dog whistle, if you want to call it that, and mailers to God knows how many voters today wrongly think Cynthia Nixon is anti-Semitic. Could that make the difference if it's a close race? And you're going to say we should still re-elect Andrew Cuomo. That's not a media that's not an unbiased, neutral media organization. That is a media organization in the tank for the corrupt Democratic Party, or as Bernie Sanders' lead advisor, Warren Gunnels, likes to say, the neoliberal times. If the shoe fits, wear it. You mind putting the AC on? I'm burning under these lights. So, one story that I would like to cover that I'm pretty sure not getting a lot of coverage. Did you see this anywhere in the news? Let me show you this image that happened. A massive, quote, natural gas explosion in Beaver County, Pennsylvania. There we go.
Natural gas, a.k.a. fracking.
Wow. That really looks pretty damn big. You see those flames? You see how high that goes? One more time. This was in Beaver County. It is a pipeline that connects to Mariner East 2 pipeline, which is another Energy Transfer Partners gem. So if you want to think about a diabolical oil company, yeah, you got Exxon and all these, but Dakota Access Pipeline, brought to you by Energy Transfer Partners. Rover Pipeline, which is spilled by some estimates 40 to 50 times, Energy Transfer Partners. Bayou Bridge Pipeline, which they just handed down an injunction to stop construction, which I'm going to get to, Energy Transfer Partners. And Mariner East 2 pipeline, which goes through Pennsylvania, Energy Transfer Partners. So pipelines don't explode, right? Is my man Jerry Ross there?
Yeah, he's there.
Is my troll? Is my BFF Jerry? Jerry, what do you think? Pipelines never explode, right, Jerry?
Jerry,
Never.
Jerry asked a question earlier about why don't we talk about black police officers killing white people. I guess something happened in Minneapolis. I was looking that up. For some reason they wouldn't pull that up. But this is the issue, Jerry. You know I love you.
You come in here and totally interrupt my topic.
All right, give me 1 second.
Ahead.
So this is it. The system
Get in
is
the frame.
the system is corrupt. You know what I mean? So that's what we're talking about. But black people are disproportionately targeted by the police officers. But it doesn't matter if you're a white, black, or Asian police officer. The system that they're trained in is corrupt. You know what I mean? So that's what it is right there. There's black police officers that's racist to black people, and to just like white police officers are racist and target and perceive us to be a threat. They're all the same because that's how they're trained. The system has to be demolished and built back up. That's what we're saying. It can happen either way. We're not for it either way. But black people specifically, historically speaking, not just since the past 10, 15 years when everyone had a camera on their phone. This goes all the way back. You know what I mean? Back to after emancipation, when they were hiring guns to find slaves and have the convict leasing. You know what I mean? So historically speaking in America, black people have been the target of police brutality, of killings, of corruption, having drugs being planted on them, and getting ridiculous sentences for drug charges and things like that. That's just the reality of it. But when we say that when we talk about black people being killed by white officers, that's a true thing that you just can't argue. It's the true thing. And you can tell, you can look online and see where people do social like experiments, and they'll show you in a open carry state where the same street, the same state, a white guy walks around with a rifle, they pull up to him, get out, talk to him, ask him about his permit and everything, and they let him go. A black guy does the same thing, and they have 10 officers cars, put him on the ground first with guns drawn out. And then after they arrest him and do everything, they ask him questions. So that's the reality.
Worry. Jerry doesn't live in America. He lives in United Jerry of this. Jerry lives in his own country, in his own mind. So that's okay. But
the United States of Jerry.
So we got another gas line exploding. Energy Transfer Partners. Let me give you the details here. A pipeline blast before dawn Monday led to evacuations but no injuries in Center Township, Beaver County. So, Jerry, well, no injuries. The pipeline explosion occurred shortly before 5 a.m. and was brought under control about 2 hours later after the pipeline's owner, Energy Transfer Partners, shut off the flow of gas, which I'm shocked they even did that much, said Center Township Police Chief Barry D. Kramer in a news conference that was simulcast on radio. It wasn't immediately clear which ETP pipeline was impacted. An ETP spokesperson wasn't immediately available for comment. Kramer told reporters that at 5:52 a.m., two valves, one near Center Township and the other one on the way to Burgestown, were shut off. It took time to burn the gas that was remaining in the lines out, Kramer said. Authorities evacuated between 25 and 30 homes after the explosion and fire, using reverse 911 to notify homes in the evacuation zone. Some of those evacuees required medical assistance not because of injuries, but because of their medical condition out of their homes, Kramer said. They're being housed temporarily at the Center Township Fire Hall No. 1 and at the American Red Cross. There were other impacts due to the pipeline incident. Power lines and other towers fell, blocking Bunker Hill Road, and Interstate 376 was also closed in both directions. Penn Power, Duquesne Light, and First Energy personnel were all on the scene. So was People Gas, although the Pittsburgh-based gas utilities lines were not impacted. The Central Valley School District, which includes Center and Potter Townships, closed all its schools Monday. Energy Transfer Partners is the owner, blah, 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 blah. Also, not mentioned in this article, I believe some houses had severe damage. So you have lawmakers, here we go. Lawmakers called for the halt to the pipeline in light of the gas explosion. A Sunoco pipeline, it's Sunoco/Energy Transfer Partners, explosion destroyed a Beaver County home, 2 garages, and a number of automobiles at 5 a.m. Monday. No one was injured. Those within a half-mile radius were evacuated. The fireball was extinguished at the 24-inch natural gas gathering line by 7 a.m. So, destruction of homes. You have destruction of homes. You have people with medical conditions because of the pipeline explosion. You have the insane amount of methane being emitted into the air because of these pipeline explosions. And don't think just because one pipeline explosion doesn't injure someone that's just the norm. These pipelines are being built in more dangerous ways all the time. If you followed when I first started reporting on my own, we went to Virginia to cover the Mountain Valley Pipeline. Well, they are building that pipeline in some of the steepest slopes in the United States of America through West Virginia and Virginia. If those pipelines explode, not if, when they explode, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of families that live there with the pipeline underneath those homes. I interviewed Red and Minor Terry, who were some of the tree sitters who protested by protesting atop their tree, in their case for over a month. If that pipeline explodes, which is right under their house, they're dead. And other people within 2 miles are dead. And by the way, it's not unlikely, we've seen activists talking about it, and we've also seen some outlets reporting that the landslides in the area could be the reason that these pipelines are exploding. And why are there so many landslides happening in the area? Because the pipeline construction, a lot of these areas get landslides in the first place, but the pipeline construction is making those landslides worse, which we've seen, for example, with the construction of the Mountain Valley Pipeline in Virginia. So you're going to have more extreme weather, so that can produce landslides. But the building of these pipelines in very steep slopes in a lot of places are producing worse landslides. The bottom line is you're building gas chambers underneath the ground where people live. Chambers that explode all the time. I don't care what idiots, sorry Jerry, like Jerry and others of his ilk like to say. I'm not, we're seeing these explosions over and over and over and over again. And once more, as I report over and over again, the majority of these pipelines and the, quote, natural gas that will be used are not even for the residents that the pipelines are endangering. These are all going to export terminals so they could go to other countries. So Energy Transfer Partners and other big oil, fossil fracker fuckers can make just a couple more billion this year. Are we going to take it seriously when people start dying? Probably not, because we don't even take it seriously when little kids get shot up in schools. In the United Corporation of America, war, they say collateral damage. The people are the collateral damage so we can keep the oligarchy healthy and functioning. That's the kind of stories we're going to go out and cover. Because there's a lot of these pipelines, being built very dangerously. One of the pipelines, I believe, which one? One pipeline that's on my list for the GoFundMe crosses 700 water streams, including indigenous reservations. So it's unbelievable. So you have this pipeline business happening, and at the same time, you have, Trump methane. While you have these pipelines exploding and the media is not covering it, nothing's being done, you have the Trump administration wants to make it easier to release methane into the air, which, by the way, contrary to the public relations that you hear, these fossil frackers, these fossil fuckers, methane is more dangerous. The release of methane is more dangerous to climate change than carbon dioxide. But they say, this natural gas is a cleaner energy. It's cleaner. No, it is not. Methane is shown to be way worse. I mean, not that carbon dioxide is good, but methane is worse. But now Trump, in his wisdom, which, again, he's bought off just like the rest of them, wants to make it easier for these fossil fuel companies to basically just soak your air and water with methane. This is from the New York Times. Trump administration, taking its third major step this year to roll back federal efforts to fight climate change, is preparing to make it significantly easier for energy companies to release methane into the atmosphere. Methane, which is among the most powerful greenhouse gases, routinely leaks from oil and gas wells, and energy companies have long said that the rules requiring them to test for emissions were costly and burdensome. Let's not burden the oil companies. The EPA, perhaps as soon as this week, plans to make a public proposal to weaken an Obama-era requirement that companies monitor and repair methane leaks, according to documents reviewed by the Times. In a related move, the Interior Department is also expected in coming days to release its final version of a draft rule proposed in February that essentially repeals a restriction on the intentional venting and flaring or burning of methane from drilling operations. So, basically, President Trump and Donald Trump's America and the EPA, if methane leaks, if you want to repair it, feel free. If you don't want to repair it, don't worry about it. We don't want to burden you. We bow to the oil companies. We bow to the fossil fuel companies. So if there's an explosion or methane leaks, which, by the way, there's leaks in pipelines that aren't reported every single day. Most of the leaks that happen in the pipelines all over this country are not reported. And the ones that are always underreported and underestimated how many gallons actually leaked. So, does this sound like, this is insanity. You're trying to make it so that oil companies and fossil fuel companies don't have to repair leaks? So, if they don't have to repair leaks, what's next? What is next? Are you going to say they don't have to clean up spills? That's just the price of doing business? In what way is it environmentally sound that these companies don't have to repair leaks? If you don't repair leaks, they're going to happen more often and with more force. I'm telling you, it's insane. Next is going to be, well, if it spills, you know, we as the EPA likes to say, we advise you to clean it up. But
did you hear about what Trump did today?
You mean what I'm reporting on right now?
Oh, that's what
yeah,
you said,
yeah.
right?
Good listening. That's why we pay Ty the big bucks. He said, "Did you hear what Trump did today? You mean what I'm talking about right now?" So, unbelievable. So,
I'm working.
yeah, you're working. So, I gotta say, folks, I don't call for armed revolution. I want to be clear: no arms, no violence. But we need. This is essentially, we had thousands and thousands of people in the streets against guns. I don't think it was enough. Against gun control, against these mass shootings. This is a huge threat. And this administration, which I've openly said, I underestimated how bad Trump was on the environment. I don't think Hillary Clinton would have been great, but I have to just call it like I see it. I think she would have been better. I don't think she would have done this. I don't think she would have done these. I think she would have been in bed with fracking and fossil fuel companies, but I don't think to this severity. On that, I have to give it to her. I don't think. But it's absolutely insane. It not only endangers our water, it not only endangers our air, but it makes it so these explosions will happen more consistently and be bigger and bigger, endangering more and more people. People's homes are being destroyed. People are being shuffled out of their homes in the dusk of the morning due to explosions. No one should have to live in their home worrying about if there's going to be an explosion. And if there is, what kind of sane system says you don't have to fix it? You don't have to repair leaks. I'm telling you, record this, because next they're going to say, well, if you spill in water bodies, if you spill on wildlife, it would be nice if you clean it up, but we don't want to burden you. It's time for a revolution. No arms, but it is time for people in the streets, people outside these oil companies and fossil fuel company buildings, and people outside the White House. Because let me tell you something. As you see this extreme weather coming, because both parties haven't done enough on climate change, more so the Republican Party, we're going to see more and more explosions. We're going to see more and more spills in more and more critical water bodies. And who will be hurt the most by this? Indigenous people, rural Americans who don't live in busy, bustling cities, farmers, wildlife, and water. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. So, from explosions to Trump basically not understanding how the environment works or not caring. Apparently he doesn't care because they don't build pipelines under Trump Tower or the White House. It's really, really shameful. And if the Democratic Party had half a brain, instead of, foaming at the mouth about Russia, they'd be explaining to voters, you are literally in danger because of this EPA and this president. That's actually a message that a lot of people will be attracted to, because you want to know something. It's not exactly a partisan issue if your house is at risk of explosion. And as I've reported on the ground, you know who's against these pipelines? Oftentimes equally, conservative ranchers and Republicans who are having their homes and land seized by eminent domain. So there is a political coalition between tree-hugging progressives against these pipelines and Dick Cheney, cowboy-wearing conservatives. I know because I've done some interviews with those types of conservatives on their land in West Texas. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I end with some positive news. If you've been following, I have been covering the Bayou Bridge Pipeline. That is another Energy Transfer Partners gem down in the Bayou in Louisiana. It is the last piece of the Dakota Access Pipeline. It's a piece that they're building so they could get the crude oil in the pipeline to export terminals to sell to other countries so that Energy Transfer Partners can get richer and then pay off the politicians both in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. So here's the deal. You have water protectors down there who have been violently arrested. If you've watched my videos, there were arrests last week. They were pinned to the ground. They almost broke this woman's arm. They were arresting these individuals on private, and by the way, they arresting them are private mercenaries for the oil company. They're not even actual police. They're private mercenaries, like we saw at the Dakota Access Pipeline, that had its own private mercenaries making up and breaking the laws as they went. They're arresting water protectors who are on private property and have the permission of the landowner to be on that property. You know who doesn't have the permission to be on that property? Energy Transfer Partners, or anyone connected to Energy Transfer Partners, the very individuals that are arresting the water protectors that do. So, but in, our justice system, who the hell matters? We side with the oil company. So these water protectors, including a journalist who I interviewed, Karen Savage, have been charged with felonies because of Louisiana's new ALEC-inspired laws that make it a felony if you protest a, quote, critical infrastructure project, which these pipelines are claimed to be. So, I believe it was, what's today? Tuesday. Yeah. Over the weekend, an injunction was approved to halt construction on this private property land. So Bayou Bridge Pipeline, Energy Transfer Partners, cannot construct anymore on this private property. A legal challenge from, I always mess this up, Atchafalaya River Basin landowners and environmental groups has temporarily halted construction of the controversial Bayou Bridge Pipeline. On Monday, the 10th, a judge was scheduled to hear the case of St. Mary Parish landowners who filed an injunction against builders of the pipeline, which they say would cross their property illegally. But just before the hearing, Texas-based Energy Transfer Partners, which is constructing the pipeline jointly with Phillips 66, by the way, the largest investor in Phillips 66, one Warren Buffett, who the media hands out blowjobs to. Well, not literally, but you get my point. Came to an agreement with landowners that effectively stopped construction on a key section of the route. It's a huge victory and a blow to Bayou Bridge, said Ann Rolfes of Louisiana Bucket Brigade, one of the groups opposed to the pipeline. The proposed 162-mile pipeline would run from St. James to Lake Charles, with portions crossing the ecologically sensitive Atchafalaya Basin. And I'm mispronouncing that, my apologies. The pipeline would link to Energy Transfer's Dakota Access Pipeline and the oil fields in North Dakota. The injunction was filed in July after members of the Atchafalaya Basin Keeper, a preservation group, noticed pipeline workers cutting trees and digging trenches on a 38-acre marshland in St. Mary. The property's owners, which includes Peter Alistad and other members of his family, had not granted access to the property and opposed the pipeline's construction through the basin, which contains one of the largest swamps in North America. Energy Transfer Partner contends that it is the right to build on private property through expropriation, a process similar to eminent domain that allows private companies to take property for the public benefit. They can say this is for the public good and can take property, Ralph has said. That's pretty shocking. So, in America, if you say something's for the public good and the judges and politicians that you've bought off agree, you can steal anybody's property and build a ticking time bomb right the hell under them. Land of the free, shining city on a hill, they say. So, for now, the injunction has been granted. They're still building on other parts of the pipeline, other parts of the path, but right here, they have to stop. Now, a lot of times, pipeline companies are ordered to stop construction in specific areas. And what do? They completely blow off the ruling and the judge because they know they're going to lose more money by stopping construction than they would just to pay the, drop in a bucket fine that they're going to get. Because these oil companies, when they break the law, when they don't obey judges' rulings, they don't see criminal charges, they don't see jail time, they don't see sanctions against their company where they lose licenses. They just pay a fine, which is nothing compared to the billions they have to make. It's all a sick game. There's laws for indigenous people, there's laws for other water protectors, there's laws for African Americans, and there's laws for oil companies, banks, and corporations. The laws for oil companies, banks, and corporations are flexible, shall we say. The laws for everybody else are invented out of thin air. Think about this. They're arresting people on land where they have permission to be on, the people being arrested, and charging them with felonies, but the police have no standing or permission to be on that land. And they're not even actual police. They're private mercenaries of an oil company. But the police have been bought off in Louisiana and North Dakota. We saw Energy Transfer literally pay, I believe it was $10 to $15 million back to the police department or law enforcement. Give me a fucking break. So, Bayou Bridge Pipeline is one of the stories that we are doing this GoFundMe for, so we can get out there down in the bayou. Can you imagine Ty and I in the swamps of Louisiana? You ready for that, Ty?
I've never been in Louisiana yet.
Yeah. So
I ain't going in no swamp.
you're not going in those swamps? So Paul said the South prejudice is the worst. That's true. That's true.
I know. I believe him. I don't.
Yeah.
When I was in Alabama covering
Roy Moore election, I was talking to a girl. I was like, man, I thought it would be more, because I went out there, I was kind of nervous. I'm like, I thought it would be more racist, but everyone here seems like really nice. She said, no, they're racist. That's just Southern hospitality. But I guess her boyfriend was black, and she was like, no, we deal with it all the time. Like, they was just being polite because that's what they do in the South.
So basically, they're not racist to your face, but they don't want to be around you.
Yeah, well, exactly. They know that. I guess they're, I don't know, they probably won't be racist. They'll be racist to your face, but I guess that's a different type of breed.
So, for the time being, temporary injunction on this private property. I will follow up as far as these felony charges against water protectors that had the very permission of the landowners to be on their land. So did the journalist that was arrested. But in Louisiana and North Dakota and now Nebraska, where Keystone's going to be rebuilt, there's laws and then there's laws. So the laws are for the oil companies, the police, and then the laws that are made up are for everyone else. So, United States of Oil, United Corporations of America.
there are laws and then there are alternative laws.
Right. Oh, as they say, alternative facts, alternative laws.
Yeah.
That's a new one. We should make a shirt out of that. So, as I always say, folks, the majority of people in this country are compassionate, but most people don't know what the fuck's going on. So, we'll be live tomorrow, 4 o'clock, right on the dot, Eastern time. We're going to be launching a GoFundMe. I really, really hope you can contribute. If you can't, tell your friends, tell your family, tell them the information. We're going to have
Take it to church.
we're going to have a snazzy video to go with it and tell you a little bit more about what we're specifically trying to raise funds for, what kind of stories we're looking to cover, and all that good stuff. Thank you for watching. Peace.
Peace.